My cell phone's off. I have a request both from myself and Chief Judge Moran to ask the board to authorize your county attorney, Mr. Hallman, to file an amicus brief in the current dispute that is a result of a filing by the clerk of the court, essentially against the chief judge. In a nutshell, the dispute revolves around expenditures of funds that we call the 939 funds under Florida statute. Those funds are collected through your ordinance, 2004-40. The authorization to spend those funds is through the statute 939. At the beginning of the year, we requested expenditure of a small amount of those funds, and the clerk objected. We attempted originally to work with the clerk to try to reach a resolution. And in February or March of this year, the chief judge came up and met with Mr. Crawford in his conference room. And as you remember, because they are funds authorized by the county, Mr. Leeper attended and Mr. Hallman attended, and we reached an agreement. The chief judge made a proposal. Mr. Crawford said it was fine. He had no objection to it. He would comply with it. We shook hands on it. Unbeknownst to us, after we left the meeting, Mr. Crawford began contacting people, rejecting the agreement. We learned of this only because he sent an email to the state court administrator's office in Tallahassee stating that this was Moran's proposal. He disagreed with it. He did not want to comply with it. The state court administrator was kind enough to send us a copy of the email. At no time did Mr. Crawford extend to us the professional courtesy of telling us that he either did not mean what he said at the meeting or he had changed his mind. Judge Moran then entered an order directing payment of some of those funds. Although Mr. Crawford complied with that, he has hired a law firm to file what's called a writ of certiorari in the first DCA, essentially against Judge Moran, contesting his authority to do that. We believe that our position is valid. Throughout these proceedings, from the very beginning, we have kept Mr. Hallman in the loop. We recognize that the collection of these funds was through your authorization. We did not want to offend the Board of Commissioners. We've taken no action that we believe that either your attorney or the board as a whole would disagree with. We now have to respond to the writ of certiorari, which we are happy to do, but we would like to be joined by the commissioners. And so my request is that you authorize Mr. Hallman to file an amicus brief in the case. I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay. Thank you, Judge Foster. Any comments from the board?
The only one I would have is that the amount of the funds we're talking about here is how much?
There is close to, I believe, 150,000. There is in excess of 140,000 as of March or April, I think.
That's in the account.
In the account.
Right.
Yeah, we asked for the expenditure of some $4,000.
$4,000.
And I'll say this. We almost never ask to expend funds from that account or any other account. We, I think, are very good stewards of our money. And so it's not an unreasonable request, and it's a request to help move the process in the courthouse. The fact of the matter is, I shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be in this situation. I believe in any other county of this state, this matter would have been worked out between the chief judge and the clerk. We at one time believed we had done that. Based on Mr. Crawford's action, we realized several months ago that we were unable to negotiate anymore because we would never know whether we had a deal or not. This is an enormous waste of time. It's going to be a waste of public funds. Mr. Crawford's hired a private attorney, despite the fact that he's hired a full-time in-house attorney. He's now hired a law firm to do this. I assume they're going to be paid by public funds. I don't know whether they're funds that you authorized or not, but to some extent, I'm embarrassed to be here. This isn't the way we should work things out, particularly in Nassau County. But it has come to that. We are unable to deal with Mr. Crawford because we cannot count on him.
Mr. Chairman, I move that